You know that story we've all been hearing for years about this streaming wars, this big, single, global slugfest for subscribers? Well, it's wrong. Actually, it's completely outdated. When you look at the 2025 financial projections, you realize the whole game has changed. That old narrative, it's dead. So, what exactly took its place?
So, you might be thinking, if that old war is done, did somebody just win? I mean, let's be real. You see that Netflix logo pretty much everywhere you look, on every screen on the planet. So it seems obvious, right? But the real story? Well, it's a whole lot more complicated than that.
No, the war is not over, not by a long shot. It shattered. It completely broke apart. You see, what used to be this one single global fight has now split into two totally different wars, and each one has its own battlefield, its own weapons, and its own rules for how you win.
Okay, so to really get a grip on this new landscape, we're going to look at two empires that perfectly show these two different paths. On one side, you've got the global titan, Netflix, and on the other, the Chinese powerhouse, iQIYI. Now, they're both still fighting for dominance, for sure, but the crazy part is they're not even on the same battlefield anymore.
All right, pay close attention because this slide right here is probably the most important one in this whole explainer. It's the key to everything. You've got Netflix fighting a horizontal war. Think of it like spreading a wide net across the entire globe. Their goal is pure, massive scale. Then you have iQIYI fighting a vertical war. They're not spreading out, they're digging down. They're drilling deep into their home market in China, building this incredible ecosystem to squeeze every last drop of value out of every single user.
And if you want to see just how different these two wars really are, you just have to do one thing: follow the money. So let's crack open the books and look at the financial firepower each of these companies is bringing to the fight in 2025.
And whoa, these numbers, they tell a story of two completely different universes. I mean, look at this. Netflix isn't just big, it is a financial juggernaut. We're talking $45 billion in revenue. And an incredible $11 billion of that is pure profit, straight to the bottom line. Now, look over at iQIYI. Their revenue is less than a tenth of Netflix's. They're still not profitable, and their operating margin is this razor-thin 0.9%. Honestly, this isn't even a competition. It's a financial mismatch of truly epic proportions.
And all that financial power, it translates directly into some mind-blowing efficiency. Just look at this. Because Netflix has this one streamlined global model, every single person on their payroll generates a staggering $2.8 million in revenue. iQIYI, on the other hand, with its much more complex, localized business, brings in about $825,000 per employee. That difference, that 3.4 times difference, that's not just some random number. It's a powerful example of the raw, brutal force of global scale.
But if there's one number that should be keeping the executives at iQIYI up at night, it is absolutely this one: a working capital deficit of over $1.6 billion. Now, to put that simply, it means if they had to pay all their short-term bills tomorrow, everything they owe, they would come up massively short. This is a huge red flag for a serious cash crunch. It means they're constantly having to borrow just to keep the lights on. It's like they're walking a very, very precarious financial tightrope.
The source analysis we're drawing from HDIN Research, they really put it perfectly. They called the financial gap between these two a cloud and mud difference. And that's such a great visual, right? You've got Netflix just floating up in the clouds of profitability, while iQIYI is down here, slugging it out in the mud of financial instability.
Okay, so we've seen they have totally different war chests. It only makes sense that they'd have different weapons of choice, right? So let's compare Netflix's global playbook with iQIYI's strategy, which is all about building this impenetrable local fortress.
And this right here, this really gets to the very heart of their strategies. Netflix's main weapon is its giant global content machine. It's built to crank out hits that can work pretty much anywhere in the world, even if, that sometimes means the content feels a little generic. iQIYI's weapon is totally different. It's all about deep cultural resonance. They create one amazing piece of intellectual property, or IP. Just think of a massive hit TV show. And then they find dozens of ways to make money off of that one single idea, all within China.
So Netflix's playbook is classic horizontal war, right? Conquer new territory and then hold it. They're finding huge new growth in Asia. They're cracking down on password sharing to turn those viewers into actual paying customers. And they're using that cheaper ad-supported plan to capture even more ground. And what about gaming? Well, that's their defense.
It's not really about making money from the games themselves. It's about making their service so sticky, so valuable that you would never even think about canceling.
Now, iQIYI's Fortress, it's built on a foundation of original local content and some seriously cool technology. Get this, a crazy 90% of their new hit dramas are their own original productions. They're using a proprietary AI tool they call Screenplay Studio that literally analyzes scripts to predict which ones will be hits before they even start filming. They're also building in AI assistants like Tadu to make the whole experience more immersive. For iQIYI, the streaming show is just step one. The real money, that's in the long-tail value of that IP.
And this is just a brilliant illustration of how they pull that off. They call it their all-ecological cycle. So it all starts with a hit online show, step one. Then that same IP gets turned into a real physical theme park, iQIYI Land. From there, it becomes a VR experience you can dive into. And finally, it's spun out into all kinds of merchandise and games. They take one single hit show and turn it into 4, 5, maybe even more separate ways to make money. That's what that deep vertical monetization looks like in action.
So there you have it. Two giants on two completely different paths, fighting two totally separate wars. Which of course brings us to the final and most crucial question of all. Where is all this headed? So when you look at these two different models, which one is actually built to last? Is that massive global scale the ultimate trump card? Or could a deep, focused, regional ecosystem actually prove to be more resilient in the long run?
While the truth is, neither path is a walk in the park. Both of these empires are facing some very serious threats. For Netflix, the danger really comes from its own massive size. A potential $42 billion acquisition that would pile on a mountain of debt. Their global content is always at risk of becoming kind of bland to try and appeal to everyone. And on top of that, regulators all over the world are demanding they produce more local content. Now, iQIYI's dangers, they're much more immediate, even existential. You've got that severe cash crisis we talked about, incredibly fierce competition just in their home market, and the constant, ever-present risk that government censorship could just wipe out a hit show overnight.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's this. That whole idea of a single winner-take-all streaming war, it's over. Forget about it. The future of entertainment isn't going to be one single global empire. Instead, it's going to be this series of strong regional fortresses coexisting with global players who have to navigate this really complex patchwork of local markets, each with its own culture, its own competitors, and its own unique rules of engagement.
And just so you know, all the analysis in this explainer was based on a deep dive into the 2025 financial reports and strategic disclosures from both companies. The research credit for this breakdown goes to the team at HDIN Research.